What is up, guys, and welcome to episode lucky number 7 of the Next Level Esports Podcast, the number one podcast about esports coaching and team development to help you and your team reach that next level by getting the people side of esports right. My name is Donnie, and today I'm talking to Anthony, Psykho, Vicente. Anthony is a coach for ProGuides. ProGuides is a platform where gamers can buy coaching from the top 1% of the players and coaches. He is as well a former coach in the game Apex Legends at Beer Claw Gaming. Coaching is not only about coaching teams, and you can also be a successful coach by coaching one-on-one. But how can you make money through the games that you love? What skills are required to coach one-on-one, and what will get you returning customers? If you want to learn to improve as a coach while at the same time monetize your knowledge, this episode is for you. I'm stoked to get started because this is another great topic with tons of value. So how are you doing today, Anthony?
Doing absolutely great. How are you doing today, Donnie?
I'm doing terrific. Yeah, great day. So I'm very eager to jump into this conversation because oftentimes we're talking about X's and O's and strategy about the games, but not really how to earn money with your coaching skills and the games that you love. So this will be a great topic for many coaches that are listening to this podcast. So just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about your journey up to coaching on ProGuides? So how did you start off coaching in the first place?
So, coaching for me in the first place, I never thought I'd sit here and I'd make coaching a career or a passion or an ambition at all. And it all started with playing Apex Legends. I came from playing on console in season 2. It was a thing that my friend my real life friend that I'd known since, kindergarten said, "Hey, let's go play this thing." And I was like, "Oh, what is this, craziness?" Right? We have a blonde girl who electrifies things. We have a guy who's crazy who jumps on a jump pad and stims himself or something. And I'm like, what is this craziness, right? And so, I never really took it seriously. And it wasn't till, I said to myself, "Hey, look, um, let me get better at this game," right? So
Mm.
I switched off to PC season 4. This was the season where Revenant had came out, and I said, "Hey, I want to get better at this game." So that was actually the first time I've ever enlisted the help of an actual coach. So my first coach, his name is Rio River Spirish. He worked off a platform called ProGuides, and like back then, it was him being diamond, platinum type of rank at level less than 300, and he taught me, I think, some of the most important things that I use in coaching today. You would say, well, it's funny, how could a lower level elo coach really teach you much, if anything at all? The as you call it, Donnie, the X's and
Mm.
O's, right? That analysis, right? And it really came down to the fact that he shared with me some methods that really, brought into the mental side of coaching, how you make and break
Right.
habits, the way that you think about things. So basically from there, I had then gotten the analysis part right. I went to folks like Jack Wacko Middleton and Shulkin to learn more about FPS. Shulkin, a 15-year, FPS veteran, talked to me about angles, really made sure I understood what I was talking about and what I was looking at. And,
So we're also talking about like learning from other genres, other games, other
yeah,
coaches and players as well that has nothing to do with the game you are playing. Just like the concepts, analyzes, what are they doing and what kind of key components can I learn from them?
absolutely, Donnie, absolutely. And River came from being a grand master or a grand champion in Overwatch. One of those particular words. I'm not fully into that scene, but I will
Mm.
say, that's where he came from, right? So overall, when it came down to going to people like, Jack, who had the analysis and who had played professionally, in Europe, and going to Shulkin, who, just had a lot of, brand value and was, one of the top percentage players in the world for a time. Um, that came down to really getting into what I do today, right? I use all of the things that I learned and I combine it in my own way to make the student as successful as I can make them, right? And as you said to me, Donnie, not every student is necessarily ready, right? So you gotta be able to gauge how people are for sure. But overall, being able to you know ready myself as a player, but also as a coach was a process. It didn't just come overnight. It was a lot of work. So that
Mm.
comes down to ProGuides. So let's get how I got into that, right?
Okay,
So
let's go.
ProGuides is an absolutely amazing platform, and I can kind of list a couple reasons why. But I actually started out first coaching for free off of a Reddit, right? As all things start on Reddit, right, Donnie? Um, so I started coaching on Reddit for free on what was a Loba Main's channel. Loba's a character, season 5 launch, and basically. I started coaching some people there, a handful of students started for free. And then I worked my way up from there to joining a platform called epal.gg. Um, Epal it's an alright platform. It has just sort of taste, though, more so for companionship gaming rather than coaching.
Mm.
So I said, okay, well, look, the pay rate here can be whatever I make it, right? As just any platform you freelance off, like Fiverr or whatever it may be. But the issue really came down to getting more of those clients. And so once I started to get reviews, it was very easy to get clients, but the issue just came down to being, paid right and having even more mentorship, being able to talk to more peers and stuff like that. And it just didn't have that. So when I approached ProGuides, I had noticed they were starting their Apex Legends side just off of an ad, right? Off of an ad. I was watching YouTube one day and Snipe Down's
Okay.
masterclass just happened to be there, right? I love Snipe Down. I think he's probably one of the most phenomenal players out there. And saw the ad and I was like, oh, wow, they're starting this now, right? And so, never would I thought in my absolute days that I would apply to ProGuides and become a professional coach there, right? And to this day now, not only do I get really amazing, like the when you think about pay on platforms, man, oh my, like ePal, you'd have to wait 14 days, Donnie, 14 days to see
Mm.
any of your money, right? And when you're a business owner, when you're a coach and that's all you do, oh my. No, that's just will not do, right? So pro guides, weekly payments, you're getting bonuses off of, your referrals, off of your retention. They have other internal programs as well where you can really, you can mentor other coaches and really get to review them and stuff like that. Um, so pro guides has provided not only stable payment in that regard, which is very hard to find on any platform,
Mm.
but it also provided the bonuses, the incentives to go ahead and mentor and refer people in terms of like clients. And the other really great thing about it is that they prioritize, really making sure the coach has all the tools, right?
Right, that is very important. So now we came to the station of pro guides. Let me summarize maybe as well for the conversation's sake and also for the audience, because I heard some very interesting things that made you come here, and that is, I believe, essential for people to know. You just didn't, you applied, of course, like or through an ad on pro guides, but what is important as well is to know what you did prior to when you came to pro guides. You did coaching for free, you met people, you got mentored, you learned the ropes basically from different people, and then you were looking for other ways to express your coaching skills, develop that even a little bit more further in that regard, and then you make the step when you saw that ad that you could coach on pro guides, right? Is this a correct summary?
That is a correct summary. Yeah.
All right, so what is important in this sense is if you want to become a coach, you can do quite a bit of like testing the waters for yourself first before you go all in, like, oh, I want to become a pro guy. It's just like with any job, it's like an internship. If you want to work later at a bakery, just like call your local bakery shop if you can,
Yeah.
uh,
Dipping
work
your
for that for free for a day or something, or maybe 2 days, just to see if that's something that you'd like. Can you is that a sort of a good example?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Like dipping your toe into the water, right? As kind of you're putting there, Donnie. Like,
Mm, yes.
observing, being able to be interactive in the elements, really learning, right? The educational aspect. Um, it's absolutely important because that's going to determine because like when it comes down to coaching, right, it was the first thing I ever found, right, for me, right? Like I worked at an ISP, right, internet service provider. I worked in, a retail game store, right? I'd done these things, right? I had kind of experienced the world in a couple different ways, right? So for
Right.
me, when I started coaching, it was the combination of the two was yes, this is work, right? Some things here are tedious, right? But also combine the joy of what I got in terms of teaching and being able to teach something that I love, right? Which is games. So at the end of the day, everybody's going to have that thing. They're going to have their niche, but they're also going to have the things that they like and that they don't like. And being able to find that middle ground of it all is the challenge, right?
Mm, for sure. So very interesting how you took that approach, and it sounds like a common step or a common thing to do. But I believe some people are, and I believe we talked about this a different time, but to explain the audience a bit, some people are not always willing to put in the work to get where they want, right? So putting in 3 hours just like to hone your skills, to get the development, other things that all lead to pro guides and being on the platform through that ad. So now you are on pro guide and you were explaining some things about like why pro guides is so great. So why did you choose pro guides and why did you stay on pro guides?
So a first reason, obviously, again, a business owner, stable payment, absolutely important, right? You have to be able to, maintain what you're doing, um, and being able to make your career or your business flow. And as a coach, you're a coach, yes, but if you're not going past just like the gaming side of it, right? Gaming is part of it, right? I totally get it, right?
For sure.
And I think it's absolutely, that's your passion, that's your niche, right? That's what you coach in. But the X and O's, the tactical scenarios, right? They're cool and all that to understand. But if you're not promoting yourself, if you're not growing yourself to be a businessman and a coach, right? It'll be hard to get clients. It'll be hard to think about things like retention, and it will be hard to really advance more so in that career path, right? You need that in order to do so. So staying on Pro Guides for me has been a thing because they offer different ways for me to promote my services, right? Just because there's other coaches on the platform doesn't necessarily mean I get overlooked, right?
Hmm.
I'm able to basically put in my bio when people click on me and they look throughout all the coaches, they see my reviews, right? They see all of my information, including my official Wikipedia page that gives all of my professional statistics. They're able to see all the rest of the achievements that I've made, and they're able to get a full sense of who I am and the work that I've put in. Which, in comparison, right? Um, some coaches may be on a lower rank spectrum, or they may have not put in all the necessary work that I have, right? So being able to outshine and outperform is friendly competitive, right? And I think that's absolutely awesome. So I'm given a chance to compete, I'm given a stable pay, and I'm given opportunities and incentives in order to um, further my business and my career more.
Yeah, for sure. So, what you say is on your pace and what you want to do in terms of a coach on Pro Guides when you first get there is get a bit of stability. Let people know who you are. So, what I wrote down just to summarize because I think it's also important just to have reviews of the people that you work with, like good recommendations, a Wikipedia, so they know your what you've been through, your achievements, so they know who I am. And also, basically, that means in business terms, at least that's how I interpretate it. It's why you should be their coach.
Selling yourself, exactly. And yeah, I couldn't say that without any more. Like your reviews, your people that like you network with, the things that you learn. I mean, like for example, so something I put in my bio, right? As I talked to you about kind of my former coaches before, I put them in there. I say, hey, I'm coached by XYZ, right? I'm coached by Shulkin, coached by,
Mhm.
Jack Wacko Middleton, right? Because some of these guys, very few of them are coaching Apex still, right? And the other thing is I combine their knowledge with other knowledge in my own, right? So let's say somebody is a student, coming from, somewhere over there, right? Maybe they feel like they've learned all they could from one of those folks, right? And then want to learn something a little bit different, or learn something a little bit more. Or they want to explore, or make sure that they're doing the right things from that. It's sort of like a science, right? I'm applying a science. Somebody who learns chemistry from one person is going to learn it different from another, right? So
Yeah.
it's all about that, and being able to have the support of my coaches as well when I need them, and I support them too. Like, I see them as my peers now, right? Because of all the work that I've been able to do. In fact, just a couple of days ago, I gave Shulkin a new chart. He made a chart of what's called Apex fundamentals, right? And it's something straight out of MS Paint, right? Although it gets the point of across, it's really awesome. It really does a good job. I gave him something more concrete, right? Because I plan on using it later. And I credit him for that work. And I say, thank you for teaching me this. Here's this, right? This should look a little bit better for you. This should be a little bit more helpful, right? And me and him will work on that even a little bit more later to make sure that it's as we want it. So, but it's peers now, right? We've worked together. We're being able to understand what we're all trying to achieve, and it's a really awesome environment. But you only get that environment again, Donnie, as you said, but
Mm.
really putting in the work, finding those niches, and not being afraid to be mentored. Never be afraid to be mentored, in my opinion, right? I'm learning stuff every day, right? Even if it's from like those who I consider my peers, right? Um, and higher rank, we're all that
Certainly.
way too. You know what I mean? That's just like Apex Predator, Masters base rank. We're all that way as well.
Yeah, and I believe you have to have a certain type of mindset to be open for it. If you're not open for it, you just get the results that you've always been given. It's not handed to you to become a coach or to monetize your knowledge and your skills. You have to work for it day in, day out, and have to see, like, okay, we're all human. I make mistakes, you make mistakes, but let's learn from another. That's what you also said with the MS Paint graph or the visual, right? So, oh, you did this for me, but now I evolved and now I can perhaps help you. So you basically trade as well in terms of knowledge and skills or whatever to make everything better around you. And people respect you and you're getting more knowledgeable, more, and in that sense also a bit more clients, I believe. So what is really interesting, I believe, for the audience, so how can they sign up for pro guides? Do they need to be 1%? Do they need to be 5%? They present themselves as 1%, but is it true? Can they be a very good coach but not a very good player because they're stuck in gold or platinum? They're maybe top 20% or top 10%. How does it really go? Can someone just like instantly apply on pro guides, or what's the deal?
It's a good question, Donnie. So, what I can say right now is, on the Apex Legends side of things, we are looking to expand our coaching. We wish we had more. I know Pro Guides is really pushing for us to go ahead and find people to recommend on our side, right? Because they really want some skilled people, and they really want the right people in the right place to make sure that business flows correctly. As usually we have an
Sure.
overload of orders and overload of things, right? And we want to make sure that we have people there, right? So in terms of the 1% thing, when I originally applied for Pro Guides, I only applied based upon my, high diamond statistics, rather than my master or my Apex Predator statistics. So I was let in based on that, but I also believe that I was let in based upon the reviews that I had before, the coaching experience that I had prior, and how I explained that to my interviewee. So when you apply online, and I'll give you a link so you can give one to them, in the
Sure.
description there. But essentially, when you apply there, you fill out a form, fill out your Discord information. You're invited to a Discord. They go ahead and they screen you. You do either a screen share, or you give them some evidence to prove your statistics, prove who you are, right? You understand how to play the game. But I would say that it's loose in regards to the 1%. There are some really good, if you're a good coach, you can prove that, and you can prove that you're a decent player. I'd say diamond or above. You can definitely do something with that. But
All right.
that's pretty much where that stands for sure. You'll get screened. There are still, quality assurances as well. We have 2 quality assurance peeps. Peeps. Look at me.
Mhm.
I'm a hipster over here.
People, for the people that
People.
doesn't know the slang of from America.
But yeah, we have two really phenomenal quality assurance agents, and they're very helpful in that in constructing, because you learn how to be a coach and pro guides too. That they teach you their own method of adhering to a goal and making sure you're looking at a goal and stuff like that. But the other thing that's really great that I think a lot of people will find awesome, because we talk about mentorship, right?
Mm,
There's specific programs. I can't get into exactly how they work, but there's specific programs made in mind to make sure that higher coaches with a higher retention, right, like me, are able to mentor and advise people who just came in, or people that don't have high retention or whatever it may be, to also keep the quality assurance like on our level, because all of the quality assurance people that we have are absolutely phenomenal, and they know the game decently, right? Then it may not necessarily be the real top 1% in that game, right?
right.
So it allows us a really good ability to mentor those folks and really get to talk with them, and again, learn from them too, right? They're not just like our subordinates or something like that, right? Like they're our peers, right? We want to help them out. We want to make sure they're successful, and that's what also I think makes ProGuides an excellent platform, because I get to help people like that.
Right. Sounds so awesome. And how did you get your first customer at ProGuides? How does it work in when you are on there on that platform? Can you choose what players you are able to coach? Is there like a waiting list or a waiting line? Can you select the players, or do they select you? How does the selection and the coaching process work?
Okay, good question. I love it. So basically, how do I explain it? So when it comes down to ProGuides has advertisements outside of, like, its own site, right? They
Mhm.
have master classes, right? And these master classes, you pay about $100 annually for, and you'll have access to them all: League of Legends, Apex Legends, Overwatch, Super Smash Bros, right? And there'll be actual, classes performed by professionals that are in video form, and they'll go over XYZ. Now, the thing is, you can go on Pro Guides without having to sign up for the membership. You can just go with paying for what we call credits. And so those credits are sort of like a PlayStation or an Xbox sort of currency, right? Or a Steam currency card. And
Right.
basically, when you do that, you're able to pick from a list of coaches for your game. It'll show you that they're online or they're available for scheduling. So let's say you click on me, for example, and I'm online. It'll give you some options. You'll have custom services. So I get to offer my own custom special services that are for me. I get to offer subscriptions. Subscriptions can be like classes or other services that I offer for a monthly price. Um, so you have, your boot camps on your custom services. So let's say it's $120 for like a platinum boot camp, or, $80 for a gold boot camp, something like that, right? I get them from one rank to another.
Mm.
Or again, that's the subscription model where you're doing like 24.99, or you're doing 49.99 for, hey, we'll do an ALGS watch party, a tournament watch party, or and something like that. Maybe you'll get to meet some professional players that I've coached, stuff like that. Could get to offer my own stuff as a sort of again, that business owner aspect. But mainly what you're going to have on the offer build, the client will come to you at all times. Again, they'll click on you, they'll come to you, and they'll have their first couple of options. Their main options are teammate training, 1v1s, spectation, and replay analysis. So that's basically watching
Okay.
VODs, watching somebody play live. Um, teammate training is getting into the game with them, which I find useful for some things, not always. Just depends on what they're trying to achieve. And the last one there that I mentioned, the 1v1s, right, where they maybe get to test their mechanical skills. Oh, I want to, see if I can 1v1, the top 1% of players in the game or less, right?
Right.
So that type of stuff, seeing where you are. So those are the main options. Those are some of the things that come with you being able to offer on Pro Guides, and again, the customer comes to you in that order flow. And ProGuides again does a really good job of advertising that, and on site they'll be able to, you'll be able to showcase that you're online or you're ready for scheduling, and people will get to, pick you off of you selling yourself.
Okay. So you have quite some freedom. That's what I hear from designing your own subscriptions, designing your own boot camps, or designing your own coaching things or offers and services that you feel like, okay, this is what I can offer.
hmm
Correct?
Yeah, exactly that. It
Yeah.
really, really a personalized way of making yourself again that business owner, that coach, right? That esports enthusiast, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you get more customers? Because if they pick you, they can be returning customers if they had a good experience. And is it then word of mouth or like a rating, or because I believe many people have knowledge that pro guys exist, but they don't know the back end. They haven't used it, or maybe perhaps some use it, or it's like, okay, $24.99 each month for subscription. If I have 5 customers and I have this and that, like I can make a decent buck out of it. So that is the whole intention of the podcast. So other coaches can maybe sign up for Pro Guides and earn some money. But it's not coming for free, of course. You have to put in the work and everything, but it's possible. But now you've made all these services and offers and subscriptions. How do you basically scale up?
So essentially, what it comes down to, that one of the most important things that ProGuides really is, on top of us about, and what I'm on top of myself about, is retention, retention, retention. Because if you can add, 5 clients each and every single month, let's say you had 5 clients in each single month, um, you know, you're going to be doubling what it looks like. So it's going to be like, 15 clients a month, 10 clients a month. You're going to end up, if you can bring some of that retention on, you're going to be able to grow your audience, right? Just like how you grow a Twitch stream or
Right,
a YouTube channel, right? Which are also useful, and make your own content, make your own, branding, stuff like that, bring people on that way. Is very good. That's what esports is about, right? Being able to make that content. That's what you and I are doing right now.
yeah,
And then the other aspect is, when you're first starting out, set your promotions, right? Set your prices at a little bit of a lower point, get the people in the door, get those reviews, because the reviews are going to be important. And by all means, sell yourself, right? Make sure you have the experience, make sure you're being able to state what you're able to do differently from other coaches, and being able to showcase really who you are. So that's really what it comes down to in terms of scaling yourself up and scaling yourself out. I would also recommend, doing things like, creating your own communities, make that Discord server, make that Reddit, right? Being able to have your peers, sorry, not your peers, your students, your pupils, interact back and forth with each other. They're in the same rank,
right,
right? Maybe they're close to each other. Maybe there's something they can learn from each other, right? And I have that all the time, right? In my Discord server, they're playing in gold, they're playing in platinum, they're playing in diamond, right? And they're streaming in, they're watching each other, and they're cheering each other on, right? And so it's a really nice environment, a really nice tone. So being able to get them involved with each other. But yeah, that's how you kind of
right.
really scale. It's some ideas right there for some people. It's always something you can do to scale and get creative, and that's what it's really all about.
Is bringing as much value as you can for the player that is signing up. So by bringing in the community together and making pairs perhaps of people that are on the same level or close towards one another to practice together, to maybe play some ranked games
We
together
we hear it
and
all
some
the
duels.
time, in League of Legends, or in what do you call it, Apex Legends. I'm solo queuing. This is a terrible experience, right? And
Hmm.
although it is good for them in some benefit, right? Solo queuing is good in one benefit for sure. But if they really need that team aspect, they really need that help, they really need to, stay, vibing, as we say, right? Vibing,
Yeah,
as chillax while they're playing. Other people can help with that. They can be an anti-tilt deterrent, type of situation, right? Tilt deterrent. So yeah, that's really what that comes down to.
yeah. Great advice, and I believe everyone that listens to this is like, yeah, of course, but you have to have the right partner for you, right?
Mhm.
You also have a different mentality in how to go in, and perhaps you as a coach can provide that, like connecting the right people together. Oh, he's more aggressive or more chillax than the other guy. He's more serious, and maybe another serious person
Right.
next
Maybe
to
their
him.
goals align, maybe they don't, right? And being able to pair the right people in the right places. And like, even at a high level of play, right? And this is really awesome. Where,
Mm,
again, we're talking about pro guides, right? I've played in scrims, I've played in some tournaments, right? I've been able to observe a lot of tournaments and stuff like that, and really get to analyze and coach folks, at that high level. And even at that highest level, something that we really prioritizes our communication or understanding of each other and the synergy and the flow. I've been playing in, I've worked my way from platinum, what is it, platinum 1 to Apex Predator literally within these last 5 days. I've been grinding it out, right? Giving it my absolute everything. But I would not be able to do it if it was not for my teammates being so optimistic, so positive, right? We were in the
Right.
situations where, you define as, we're out, as Hamilton said, we're what is it in the song, the musical Hamilton, we're outgunned, we're outmanned, we're outnumbered, we're outplanned, right? And we got to make an all-out stand, right? I'm gonna need a right-hand man. So the whole thing there was, we'd be in a situation where one of our teammates would go down, and all I have is one other one, right? And we have to put our lives on the line, right? That's what
Of
excites
course.
me about Apex. What excites me about gaming in particular, right? He's getting attacked. I have to turn around. I have to focus the person that he's attacking because our best shot is to get that one person down. Go ahead and kill them. Get him that armor swaps that way we can go ahead and get at it again, right? This is our last stand. It's the best thing we have. It's all we can do. And I can't tell you how many times that we've won those types of fights just because we trusted each other, relied upon each other, we, gave optimism. You can win that 1v1. Let's go, right? And that's the
Right.
type of stuff that, teammates should embody at the highest level. And I believe that what I train my students to do is do that, to appreciate one another, to trust one another, and to put their play, ahead of everything, but also to put people ahead of that.
Right. Very interesting. So can you elaborate a little bit more on your own coaching style? Because you've brought up quite some things in terms of how to set it up and pro guides and just like a rough guideline on how to start off and what things are important. So what is your style? Because of course you can be a business guy and do the marketing and if you write offer, but if your content and the way you present yourself isn't differentiating from other coaches, there needs to be something because you're quite successful in pro guides. So maybe in a few minutes we can hang a little bit of a number towards it. Like
Mhm.
people want to know, right? Okay, what does it make me? But we get it towards the end. So what is your coaching style when it comes to individual coaching and pro guides in general?
So my individual coaching style, the way that I like to do stuff. So I actually have a document, and so a document has three things on it. Okay, it has the player's short term goals, the player's long term goals, and what I call their habit journal. So when players approach me, I dislike it when players are like, hey, Psycho, you're cracked out, blah, blah, blah. I really just want to get better, right? The words better. What
Yeah,
does better mean to you, right? This is a game with an endless hole of things you could do,
right,
right? What does it mean? So, first and foremost, I want a set goal for my player, all right? For my pupil. I want to understand what is their long term goal, right? What do they really want to achieve? And then what steps do they need to do to get there? So, let's say a player doesn't come with a goal. They're like, I'm not sure what my goal should be, right? I'll attach it
right,
to a badge. I'll attach it to a rank. I'll attach it to a certain statistic, a certain number, right? Something that shows that they have achieved that thing, right? So that way they, are okay, well, what's next, right? So some folks will say, okay, I want to, go semi pro. I want to compete in scrims and I want to, play in a GLL Cup for, $500, right? Cool, awesome. I understand. In order to really be like a GLL finalist or something like that, you're really going to want to make sure that your ranked is set up right. You want to play at the highest level that you can, right? Before you go and you compete against those people, because all it will be at the end of the day, right, is people of that level, right? That's why when you watch
right.
an Apex Legends, global series tournament, you don't see a bunch of diamonds there. It's right. It's a bunch of Apex Predators and a bunch of Masters, right? So there's a reason for that, right? Because they're the best players in the game. They put so much effort into competing against people against their own level. So, setting those goals is absolutely important. So that way you can really figure out where your student needs to be, right? So students like that, their short-term goal is, hey, you need to go from platinum to diamond, right? Diamond to, masters, and you can go ahead and you compete in a GLL Cup after the fact, right? And then you should hopefully get a finalist, thing there, right? You could play both, play some rank, play some comp, and being able to achieve that goal you're looking for. So it's a step-by-step process. And then the habit journal is basically something I renew every time we do a session. So long-term goals, short-term goals stay there, right? They're always that reminder. They know what they need to do now. All right. It's always going to be there,
Exactly.
always in front of their face. Habit journal might be like, okay, look, we need to make sure we're armor swapping at the end of a fight, right? If we're going to res our teammate, drop them in armors. That way they can just get up. And if they get shot immediately, at least they have a chance to fire back, or they have a chance to get up those stairs or behind that cover, right? Stuff like that. So habit journal is basically a set of questions, right? It's a set of, for me, 4 to 5 questions. And those questions are something that the player, that document should be in front of them at all times, right? So when they look at that document, right, to look back in their, either in their mind's eye or, back in the VOD, did I do this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, right? And the idea is to get it as consistent as possible, right? It's never going to be perfect, but to get it as
Of
consistent
course.
as possible, because those habits, right, those in-game actions, those behaviors are what separate some of the top players in the world from those who had just started.
So what I listen to is like short terms and long term goals is make it practical, attach it to something, and those are basically the big chunks. Like the short term is like to get some momentum going and like, okay, I can achieve this. Okay, what do we need in order to go there? Set a plan of action. And then the long term goals to keep the motivation going, like the lingering goal of the tournament or the competition or whatever that may be, an esports competition or join a professional team or semi pro. And then you have the habit journal. That is made basically in my interpretation, uh, the small percentages over time, like the good habits that add up over time of dropping that arm or making this kind of movement or checking the corners or whatever that might be, what is needed for this particular individual player. So you have like these chunks, the smaller chunks or the big chunks, and then the habits journal is let's really go into the details and look at the percentages.
Oh yeah, like, exactly what it is. And when it comes down to things like that habit journal, it really comes down to, again, what we talk about as behaviors. Behaviors are absolutely important, making sure that we're doing the right things at the right time. And that's building your game sense, right? It's building your overall game sense. But yeah, pretty much you're right. It really just that's sort of my method of doing things so far. Unless we're talking about, like tournament watch parties or something like that. Let's say somebody does want to go, semi-pro or professional, right?
Mm.
Sit down with me, watch a tournament, right? Let's really figure out what's going on here, right? Hell, I'll go back in one. We can always watch the VOD of that, right? Being able to indulge in the passions of your pupil, while also making sure that they have, again, those set achievable goals and they're able to know what they have to do, and you're able to make sure that they're on a steady way to there.
Yeah, very interesting your approach on make things concrete because I've met a lot of coaches in semi-professional, professional play. They bring a sort of framework, but what I sometimes always also see is, uh, or they make it too complex, or they don't have anything at all, and only a few coaches have like this framework that is just like enough. But also, I have to be honest about this. Those coaches are most of them are about team coaching and you're coaching individuals. So that's also a different take on what to do because if they have too many things to fill in into Excel sheets or it's too overwhelming, like they will do it 2 times, 3 times, maybe 4 times, and at the fifth time or the fifth day or the fifth coaching session, they are slacking. Like, oh yeah, I forgot, or like, oh I don't know, I didn't have time, and I had to go, and blah blah. Then the excuses roll in, and then the motivation drops, and at the end of the day, especially I believe on pro guys or when you're an individual coach, you are losing clients because they're not motivated. It's just like too much. So how do you keep the balance of too much or too little? Do you think this is the correct way, perhaps for you?
So I think that when I think about teams, right? The challenge with team coaching in that regard is it all depends on the how many people you're coaching type of thing, right? So let's say, for
Right.
example, coaching a team of 5, 6 players in Rainbow Six Siege versus coaching half that, let's say 3 in Apex Legends, you can get a little bit more hands on, a little bit more personal, right? So what I think is team coaching, as you had mentioned, I agree on that formula where, you'll forget those things, because you forget to fill in that sheet or whatever it may be, and then the motivation drops. I agree completely with that. I've seen that happen. So what I think is that what I've kind of learned and what I do is I do a combination of the two things, right? So I set aside days, I set aside time to go on a level with that individual player, work on their individual strengths and their individual weaknesses, making them feel that their coach, that person has that attention on them, right? That that they have the time, they have the resource if they, whatever they need, right? And they're being helped with their individual problems that we're able to see and pick out as well and talk to them about. Even get a feeling for maybe how they feel about their team outside of talking to their actual teammates. So if everybody's in the same room,
Mm,
they may not actually talk about all the same stuff, right, Donnie? May not
right.
explain how they feel about each other because maybe they're afraid of confrontation or maybe they don't want to, ruin a synergy or something like that, right? So I think that when you're in a team environment, you have to take it a little differently, right? You got to be able to keep everybody's motivations up, being able to help them work and communicate together, right? But overall, I think that a mix between that and individual coaching is what will make the team overall successful. Because a team
Right.
is not just a team; it's a set of individuals combined together.
Right. So what I always say in terms of next level esports is the American way that is known is there's no I in team, right? That is a basically known phrase that is famous across the world, I believe.
hmm
But what my vision is in terms of teams coaching, there are only eyes in team because you have to look at the individual. Like it's a total opposite. If you want to become that mean green fighting machine, you have to look at the individual. What does no player number one needs? What does player number two needs? Because they need very vastly different types of coaching. You cannot only stay on the team level in terms of coaching.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, as you kind of know, everybody has a sort of different action type, right? Where they have this certain way that they play, this certain type of way that they go about things, and being able to understand how you can mix that together and set it in a chemistry of a team, and then have them be synergized on their own. Oh my, we have our work cut off for us, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's yeah, but we love to do it, right? We love to do it. And so that's what, coaches watching this should know that, we love doing what we do. And that's, more or less, what we've got to experience when it came down to that one-on-one or to that, group side of coaching.
Yeah, for sure. So, how do you deal in terms of your one-on-one coaching with maybe things or just to say bluntly, just like annoying players, players that are not open for the mental game or not able to take critique. Because if you're a team coach, like you sort of have a say, oftentimes, not always, who you're gonna coach, and you have time to build up team chemistry, etc., etc. But on one-on-one, and they pick you, and it's about money, and you need to earn. How do you filter those players out, or how do you deal with such players that cannot take critique or are not open for change, but they are paying you?
So this is why I think one thing that's really important towards esports, and it's okay not to fully have it, and teams do manage to do it without it. And I'll talk about that in a second, but let's talk about it. So I think experience when it comes down to actually playing the game, at least at an above average level, is very, very helpful, right? Because you're able to talk about those situations, go in and, be able to critique things without so much people saying, well, you're totally wrong. This is how the situation should play out, right? You have the experience, you know how it should play out, right?
Hmm.
Um, so using that as, confidence and being able to depict that and say, listen, like, I understand how you this is feel about this, but this is really how this happens. And I'll show you some examples. I'll even talk to you about some examples, right? Being able to be as open as we possibly can about it, right? It's not about me so much proving them wrong as it is me trying to help them. And so that's the other part of it, right? If you don't have the experience still, you got to come from that place of genuine love, I'll call it, right? That genuine love. I want to help
Yeah,
you
yeah,
grow
yeah.
as a person, grow as a player. I may not know it all, right? But all I'm doing is prompting you, right? So that's one thing that you can do in those situations, and a method I like to use very often is the Socratic method, where you're asking those questions. You're letting them discover the things for themselves, right? Maybe what would have happened if we've done this, right? What did you think about this type of situation, right? Um, what happened, right? Maybe somebody's tilted. What happened, right? What's tilting you? What's got are you how are you feeling, right? Why are you feeling that
Mhm.
way, right? And being able to help them from there, right? People want to say what's on their mind. So why not ask them the questions? Why not let them talk to you? Let them vent. Let them, show their frustrations. Maybe it's a situation where, somebody's had I've had somebody come to me before where it's like, hey, I gave this coach, $400, $500 and I learned absolutely nothing, right? They taught me nothing. They weren't helpful to me, whatever it may be, right? And you are the first person to be helpful to me and show me these things and explain these things to me. And I've never had it done in such a way, right? And, I had to break through some walls to get into there, right? I
Right.
had to, they were like, but no, this should happen. This should happen. Okay, hold on. Let's, what happens here if this happens, right? Okay, you agree on that. Awesome. And then we go off from there, right? We go
Yeah,
off
it's
the
just a
point from point to point.
sequence.
It's a sequence, right? And that's, that's what every player, goes through. I learned this term rather recently, but, it's scaffolding, right? You go from level to level to level, right? Of what they need and what they understand so far. So that way you can bring them to the next level, right? Next level esports. That's what we do, right?
But yeah, for sure. I like that approach a lot, and I believe, from my senses, you got good fundamental skills in terms of coaching, like the things that you mentioned. Like it sounds for I believe for everyone like, oh yeah, yeah, that's the great stuff. But when I look at like the actual practice and how people behave, they don't do that stuff. So if you're listening, like these are fundamentals, but being fundamentals and you're coaching a semi-professional team or a professional team doesn't mean you are 100% effective in your coaching job. There's so much still to learn. Like this thing, I said it in maybe the half of the podcast already. It's like ask more questions than you give answers. It's like the one-on-one basic thing of what you can do as a coaching to help someone. But because we are so focused on knowledge, like I know all the games, I know all the tactics, I know all the strategies, we have this compulsory thing that we want to express our knowledge in what we know. Like I'm the coach, I want to express how much I know and blah 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 blah. But we forget about the person in front of us.
There's a difference between ego and confidence, right? And I've experienced it firsthand, right? Where I grow that ego, right? And some other coaches of mine as well have that same thing, where we play, we coach, right? We grow that ego. We're the best out there. We know what we're doing, blah 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 blah. But that doesn't really matter. Let's focus on the person again in front of us. What do they need? What can we tell them? What's helpful to them, right? Where can they potentially go? Can we be genuine with them? Can we be honest with them, right? So that's what it's all about, right? And that confidence in being able to work your way up and being able to always have that learning mentality, that learning mindset.
Yeah, for sure. Learning mindset owns everything. If you keep applying it day to day, you're a champ already. No matter, it's just a matter of time in my eyes. Then,
Any decent player, I'm always asked like, what defines you as a cracked out player, decent player, right? Is it this? Is it a rank? Is it that? And I'm like, yeah, ranks will tell you some statistics, whatever, cool. But in my opinion, rank means absolutely nothing. You know what means something? Is that player day in, day out reviewing their bots, thinking what they did wrong? Is that player day in and day out watching streams of professional players and observing? Is that player day in and day out seeking mentorship towards what they want to achieve and getting better off of it and accepting what other people have to say, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about combining your experiences. You
mm,
don't have to listen to one person or look at one thing. You build it off of you, your own
yeah,
personality. But at the end of the day, if you're not going out and you're not looking for it, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
for
people,
sure.
people always had that, especially in the millennials and my generation. They're like, I really want to reinvent the wheel, right? This is startup culture, da 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 da, right? Let's go. And the thing is, yeah, cool, awesome, but can you like, go read, Dale Carnegie, Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I bet you'll get something out of it, right? Just because it's something that he's kind of created or something that, goes off of it, you're going to combine it in what you do. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It doesn't make it unoriginal or wrong, because you're going to end up mixing things on your own and making it your own. And sooner or later, you're going to have a whole wheel of your own that you'll have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's like you need more things if you believe you can become the best version you can be by only playing the game or only being involved with the game. I believe you're 100% mistaken. You need so much more to bring to the table to excel and really reach your potential as a player. Just like what you said, like the how to influence friends and people of Kilgarnick. What was his
Dale
name?
Carnegie.
Carnegie, exactly. Like it's a very famous book. Like it will get you something, right? In terms of how to act within a team environment or with your coach or whatever, just to influence people, just like with anything else. And like a couple of weeks or a couple of, I believe, 2 months ago, I had a very great question that really struck me that kind of summarizes this is to ask your players this question is, are you a learner? Like, are you open to learn stuff? Are you a learner or are you a grinder? It's different, right? Grinding is like, I'm on the grind. Yeah, it sounds nice. Like I'm doing the thing that I'm doing, and it better give you the results, right, that you are happy with. Else it's no point in grinding. Else you have to change your strategy, and you can only change your strategy and become better and reach that next level if you are a learner, because you have to learn things how to properly review your game, properly interact with your coach, properly interact with your players, how to communicate, etc., how to go on bed on time, or how to eat properly. It's all about learning if you want to do that and be open for it.
Exactly.
So we're slowly moving at the end of this podcast, and we promised the audience to ask you a question, the $1 million question, of course.
Bring it on.
So if you do all these things that you just mentioned, right? Doing the ProGuides setup thing, doing the free sessions in the beginning, setting up your services, your offers, your subscriptions, you're scaling up. So at the end of this, if you do this quite well and properly, just like in decent amounts, how much can you earn from it? And what amount of time investment should we look at if you're listening to this podcast? Because like, oh, this sounds nice. How much time and effort are they able to invest to get X amount of result? Just like on average. Of course, it's no promise, etc.
Right.
So a bit of disclaimer. So how much is there to be earned from pro guides and individual coaching?
So when we got to sit down in ProGuides and we got to have our talks about how our other coaches were doing and where people were in terms of the pay scale and in the spectrum, there are folks on ProGuides, specifically in the League of Legends zone, actually earning, a couple of grand, it seems like, in regards like their monthly, going about things. Never mind anything external they're doing, never minding their kind of boot camps, right? Everything can kind of fluctuate, depends on how much work they're doing. But because they have
Right.
such a high retention rate, and because they have these really big services and these really good credentials they can offer, they're making a couple, a little over 1,000 or a couple thousand, per month. Just depends exactly on what the volume is. And the incentive bonuses, obviously, let's say you're being able to, what do you call, let's say we're being able to have some type of retention bonus off of what we're doing, that'll also add to things. So overall, that's, you can make an entire, what do you call it, full-time, job out of what you do in ProGuides if you do
And
everything
is
correctly.
that a far fetch? Like, is it only laid out for the top 1% earners, etc.?
I
What is
wouldn't.
basically the average? If you're full time,
Mhm.
like how much did it take for to give a bit of scope of time? The people that are earning full time, let's say between 1,000 and 3,000 bucks
Mhm.
a month,
Mhm.
how long did they took to get to that stage?
It really depends on the person. I can't really. So when it comes down to me specifically, I define myself more in a part time capacity. to a certain degree.
Okay.
This is because I do a lot of school stuff too, and I'm working on other projects. So for me, in a part-time capacity to get, 750 to, 1,000 to $500 in a, monthly, weekly period, whatever, it depends on how the month is going, right?
Mm-hmm.
It works for my needs, it works for me, right? So I wouldn't say part-time is necessarily far-fetched. I would say full-time does take a lot of work, right? That person was on the platform, probably first, that type of thing, right? Being able to do that. But I would say if you're a coach, no matter what, you don't just have to offer your services on ProGuides. You can offer them on other platforms as well. You can offer them on a freelance capacity, right? And you can go ahead and create your own projects and do your own things. It's not necessarily all about the platform, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
platform can be a source of income. It can get you clients because ProGuides, the thing is, it's a site. It's doing ads. It'll get you those clients. Clients are going to click on you, right? It's going to happen at some point, right? As you grow more, you'll get more clients. As you retain your clients, you'll also retain your revenue, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say it's far-fetched or impossible. I'm pretty sure that if I dedicated 100% of my time, right, I could definitely make it full-time. But that's because I know what I'm doing. I have the
Mm-hmm.
experience, and I'm able to have the ambition and the drive to go do it if it was need be. But I have other projects and other things in mind, and I have education that I want to pursue. So it's just not always, what do you call it, feasible, right?
Yeah. But for part time, between earning 750 and 1,500 is pretty decent in my eyes. If you're passionate and it's a good fundament to go higher, but also to leverage some things and to hone your skills as a coach and see so many different people. And because if you're only a coach of of a team, of course that is a different tool set as well. But every 3 or 4 months, you're working with 5 people most of the time, and that is your focus point. But in that 4 months of time, you maybe had, I don't know, 50 people, 100 people, maybe 200 people coming by, depending on
Yeah.
how invested
It
you are
it's all
into the pro guides.
It's all about promoting what you have. Again, so boot camps are really huge and ProGuides and subscriptions are really huge. If you can maintain that revenue or you can offer something really big for something really big, it can come, like that, right? Like I have a boot camp that's just about 200 bucks, right? You know, off the rip, right? If that's just one client and let's say two clients do that and then I had just generally, 59.99 of a subscription every month, something like that, it adds up, right? So it's not necessarily impossible. It's just all about what you're selling and being able to sell yourself and your services, right? That's what it really depends on. I think that it's more than possible to earn a lot of money off of pro guides and then a lot of money off of coaching. But I think pro guides is a good start. It'll get you some clients off the rip, allow you to surround yourself around some good people that know what they're doing, and
Mm.
I would definitely recommend it.
All right, good stuff. So now we had the $1 million question. Like, is it feasible? For sure, I believe for many coaches that want to have a kickstart, uh, if people are looking at full time, but most of the people probably that are listening are just graduating or still in college. And if you can start it off just like you over a couple of months of time or maybe a year or something, and just like you want to explore the coaching scene, is very, I believe, above average what the average professional esports coach even like earns, like in terms of like semi-professional, etc. Because the professionals, of course, they earn thousands of dollars or euros each month because they have the best teams, but they're only limited spots. So, but you for sure explained that there's pretty a good amount of money to be earned through coaching and monetizing your skill set as a coach and coaching the games that you love to coach. So that is a great thing. So Anthony, we also, as I said prior to the podcast, we also have guests that have like a chain question throughout the episodes. So the last guest of episode number 6 was Flores Escapist Burman. He talked about recruitment and selection, and he had a question specifically laid out for you that he is interested in: is how do you coach on different levels? So things are not either too easy or too hard for the players that you're coaching, because as you said, sometimes I'm working with a silver player, then a gold player, and then like apex predator or diamond player. Like, how do you differentiate between those levels?
So first, I want to thank Escapist for the question. It's a really awesome question, and it comes down to like some people are going to have more fundamental things to work on, right? So you're going to have people that don't even know how to use, cover or a head glitch, right, in FPS, and then you're going to have that apex predator that just doesn't necessarily know how to rotate properly, right? So it all comes down to not making assumptions, right? Just because somebody is of a certain level or whatever doesn't necessarily mean they're doing all the right things, right? There's always something that a player can do better. It doesn't matter how high or how low they are in the spectrum. So, no assumptions, taking it in for how it is, and being able to help them for what you see and what they say to you. That's what it's all about. The
Right.
personalized side of coaching.
Yeah. And I believe that is the beauty of it. Like, some people are listening to this answer. I can imagine, and they're like, Anthony, what are you talking about? This is too vague. I don't know. Just like give me something. But if we are talking about real coaching, I always say coaching is an art. Like it's something you have to feel, something you have to develop in order to really be good at what you're doing. And I believe you are at the stage of not really, oh, a gold player has to work on this or this, or a diamond player has to work on this, but just like to be open and to be receptive whatever is going in your way or whatever player is in front of you, to look at it with new clean eyes, no assumptions, as exactly what you said, and just be open to what you're seeing and just like ask those questions. Don't fill in the answers, what he should develop, etc.
Right.
And there's like, but what are you gonna encounter?
And
Like,
and so
we don't know.
I'd say like let's not get it like totally wrong though. Like there are some people that like have somewhat of that mindset. I think some of it is a little right. You know what I mean? Like so let's say, oh well a platinum player should be expected to do XYZ and a gold player should be expected to do XYZ. It's both right and
Yeah,
it's both
fair.
wrong because like yeah, that's probably what they're doing in that skill gap. But the thing is, right? Somebody could be in platinum, but they're missing a skill that they should have learned in gold, right? So that's why you can't make any assumptions because you really don't know where somebody truly is like on the scale. And again, ranks really don't show much, right?
Yeah.
So as I said earlier,
What you're talking about is basically the average.
right, right,
Like, right, so if you're comparing to the gold standard or the platinum standard or diamond standard, you're looking at the average. So those could be guidelines, not to
right.
fill in,
Yeah,
not to
yeah,
have
exactly.
assumptions,
Mhm.
but those are guidelines. So it structures the way you are coaching, but you approach the person, the player, with
An
open
individual
arms
open
in an
arms. Yeah,
individual tailored way.
exactly. That's how it should be done. That's how I think it should totally be done.
Yeah, beautiful answer. I believe Flores' escapist Berman got his answer for sure. So 100%. So also for you, because it's a chain thing into this podcast series. So if you can ask one question towards the next esports coach on the podcast, what would that be? So in the next episode, I can give a small hint, is a coach, Emanuel Ursachi, and he transitioned from a strategical coach to a head coach position. So in many people, it's like very close, but yet because it's close, there are differences and different ways how to operate. So do you have perhaps a question for him?
My question for him, he's doing a transition again, strategical coach to head coach. I know that those are two different jobs, as you had just mentioned for sure. So I have to ask, how did his eh, how is his day-to-day changed, and what is different about it?
Yeah. So what did the day-to-day change basically? So that is an interesting question, because you would say, or maybe some people would assume, like it's the same but a little bit different. But I believe it's such a different way of approaching the team or players that I believe his day would look different. But we'll see. We'll see what he answers into the next episode. So for sure. So Anthony, we're gonna slowly wrap this up. So I believe you brought a lot of value, a lot of insights into your ways, into ProGuides, and give some guidelines how to do it. But I'm sure if someone is listening to this and has some more detailed or personal contextual questions of like, oh, I understand this and I set this and this up, but I have this particular question. Where can they find you and get in contact with you?
Of course. So you can actually get in contact me on Twitter at Psykho. And you can also go ahead and contact me on ProGuides. I'll leave a link for Donnie in the description for both.
For sure. Good stuff. So I will be sure to put all the links in the description below. So be sure to follow Anthony if you're into ProGuides and his day-to-day life and how he also develops as a coach and all the things that he's up to, because good things are coming, I believe. So that is interesting to follow. So Anthony, once again, thank you so much for sharing your great insights into this podcast. I learned quite a lot in terms of ProGuides, because I'm always on the team side of things, or like individual coaching and like how they behave, but not the monetizing stuff in terms of a platform like ProGuides. So even though I can understand a little thing, it's also a new way, or it opens some doors, at least for me, on how to look at coaching and monetizing and some other steps to involve as well in terms of career options or side hustles, etc. So that is very interesting, and I believe other coaches have the same insights as well. So thank you so much for that.
Of course, Donnie, it was a pleasure to be on the Next Level Esports podcast, and I hope that your audience got some value out of this.
For sure, 100%. Thank you so much. And that is it, guys. Episode number 7 of the Next Level Esports Podcast, the number 1 podcast for esports coaches and team development to help you and your team reach that next level by getting the people side of esports right. If you like this episode, be sure to smash that like, share, and subscribe button. If you know anyone that finds this podcast valuable or interesting, let them, of course, know. It would be awesome if you can reach the whole world and spread knowledge about esports coaching and team development insights over the globe. If you want more things to learn about esports coaching or team development, you can go to the Next Level Esports Discord or go to the Next Level Esports YouTube channel for more content, and be sure to subscribe there as well. For Next Level Esports on Twitter, go to @next_L_esports and let us know what you think of this episode. Thank you so much, Anthony, as a guest on this podcast. And for you who is listening, I hope that you're also tuned in for the next episode, where we will discuss the transition between coach roles, where Emanuel Ursachi will be our next guest, where he transitions from a strategical coach to a head coach position and what is needed for such role transition. Thank you all very much for listening. And as always, bye-bye.